Hello and a very warm welcome to Middle East Matters. The top stories from the region this week. Infighting between rival rebels increases in Syria, with one Al-Qaeda-inspired group telling another that it could be driven out of the country. A stretch of fertile land blocks Israeli-Palestinian peace talks, with farmers saying the only thing to come from negotiations so far is more destruction. And nominated for an Oscar, a story about a Palestinian who spies for Israel, a plot born out of the panic of the director who felt like he was being watched. Well, we start with Syria, at war with the regime, but also increasingly against each other. Rivalry between rebels is getting worse. This week, a leading Al-Qaeda operative was killed by the hardline Islamist group ISIS, following which it was warned by another Islamist group that it could be forced out of the country if it didn't agree to a truce. What started out as a peaceful uprising 3 years ago has gone on to claim over 130,000 lives and seen the opposition expand, be joined by extremists and seriously splinter. Kate Moody explains.
They fight under one flag, that of Allah, but their ideologies are far from the same. Bashar al-Assad's opponents, once united, have been splintered by infighting, and the original rebels all but eclipsed by Islamist groups. Allahu Akbar! Among the most hardline, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIS. They've claimed responsibility for dozens of attacks across the country and are accused by some of tyrannizing other jihadist factions, as well as the Syrian population.
They are terrorists. They have nothing to do with the revolution. Most of them aren't even Syrian.
Two groups fighting in Syria have claimed ties to Al-Qaeda. The Al-Nusra Front, or Jabhat al-Nusra, a group of a few thousand seasoned Syrian fighters formed in 2012. And ISIS, which brought mostly foreign jihadists across the border from Iraq. Clashes between them have intensified in recent months and led to a rupture at the beginning of February, as Al-Qaeda cut ties to ISIS and claimed al-Nusra as its only active branch in Syria.
This actually will create a lot of rifts among the Syrian opposition. Actually, it will now make many people witnessing or actually expecting a lot of fights between the Islamic State and al-Nusra. Definitely the other factions will be affected by this. More divisions, more bloodshed, more anarchy among the opposition ranks.
That anarchy is leaving a bloody trail in its wake. Some 1,700 Islamists have been killed during the surge of infighting since the beginning of the year.
In addition to the lives lost in Syria as its conflict rages on, the country's cultural heritage is also being destroyed. Damage has been caused to all 6 World Heritage Sites. Now, on a local level, some citizens are taking matters into their own hands and protecting what they can, as Mark Thompson reports.
A half-hour drive south of the Syrian rebel stronghold Idlib, Maharat al-Numan has not been spared the country's civil war. At the city's cultural centre, there's little left standing. The northwestern province has suffered the full force of the violence, and so has its heritage. Volunteers are now trying to salvage anything they can here, especially the works of their hometown hero.
We want to save what's left of the works of Abu Ala al-Mari. For us, he's a cultural icon of the city, and for all Arabic literature in Syria.
Saving the books also serves a second purpose, their potential monetary value. For the moment, though, all the volunteers are concerned about is their safety.
In this small office, we have about 10,000 books, but it's not important to know how many we have, but how much they're worth. There's a chance that we may have some rarities, or they might already have been stolen. We just don't know.
These volunteers are hoping their work will mean future generations can keep one hand on Maharat al-Numan's past when they are building for its future.
Egypt's government has resigned en masse, much to the surprise of many. But the move might help Field Marshal al-Sisi, who is expected to run in forthcoming presidential polls. Al-Sisi has emerged as the country's most popular politician since Morsi was ousted last July. He has yet to officially put his name in the ring for the top job, but aides say he has decided he will run. The troubles of past negotiations echo around the latest round of Israeli-Palestinian peace talks as both sides blame the other for the lack of progress. One major sticking point, the Jordan Valley, a fertile stretch of land that makes up a quarter of the West Bank. For Israel, its troops must remain present. Palestinians, of course, want them out. And farmers say there is only one thing to come out of recent talks: it's more destruction. Our correspondents take us to the Jordan Valley.
Palestinians in the Jordan Valley complain that Israel has increased home demolitions in this area since Middle East peace talks resumed last year. Following the destruction of their property, some have no other choice than to move their families into tents.
They don't allow us to build here. We had another house in the upper part of the village. They demolished it. We came here. I put a few thousand euros into this house made from metal and zinc. I had 3 rooms. They also destroyed this one.
When asked about the reasons for which Israel is interested in controlling this land, local Palestinian farmers have no doubts.
They want this land because of its riches. The land is so fertile. It gives dates, grapes, and all kinds of greens. This is Israel's vegetable garden. It all comes from here.
The Jordan Valley represents a quarter of the West Bank, which is Palestinian territory under international law. It borders with Jordan to the east. Its strategic location is reason enough to insist on retaining control over parts of this land in case of an agreement. That's what the former deputy head of Israel's National Security Council says.
We don't speak about ruling somebody else in this case after the agreement. We speak about how do you integrate intelligence and security to make sure that this line will be a security line or a security, some kind of a border of the Palestinian state and the Israeli state at the same time.
Palestinian officials have called this a bogus argument. They accuse Israel of looking for ways to maintain its forces in and around Palestine.
So Israel is saying its security requires that it stay in Palestine, which means the whole system of control, which Israel brought into being as a result of an unaccountable and cruel occupation, is going to continue even after a peace agreement and with Palestinian acquiescence.
Some 10,000 Israeli Jews live in dozens of settlements in the valley. This farmer explains that many of them have businesses here. The date plantation he manages generates considerable sales.
It's business that talks about millions of shekels, millions of dollars.
So you're making millions of dollars off of a date plantation?
Yes.
Every year?
Yes.
Palestinians know that unrestricted access to local resources would undoubtedly boost their ailing economy, but that requires sovereignty over these fertile lands.
Well, staying in the West Bank but changing scene now, our next report looks at a movie inspired by the feeling the director had of being spied upon while making his first movie. Omar is the second Palestinian film to be nominated for an Oscar. It tells the story of a young Palestinian accused of killing an Israeli soldier and then turned to spy on his own people. Clovis Casseli brings us the review.
The undercover agents are Israeli, and they end up arresting Omar. Accused of the murder of an Israeli soldier, the young Palestinian will be forced to spy on his own people to avoid being locked up with no prospect of marrying the woman he loves. For director Hani Abu Assad, the public's reaction was even more rewarding than the positive reviews.
As a filmmaker, when you hear that the people who live this situation and living this situation tells you like it was so real and they believed it, means that this is the biggest compliment you can get, because you really succeeded to portray a drama. At the end, it's a fiction. Everything is fiction in the movie.
Inspired by William Shakespeare's tragedy Othello, Omar won the jury prize at the 2013 Cannes Festival in the Un Certain Regard section, and it's now competing for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars. A surprise contender, it's only the second Palestinian movie nominated for the prestigious prize. Both times, the man behind the lens is Abu Assad, a filmmaker who doesn't feel the need to work with an experienced crew. Quite the opposite, in fact.
When we succeeded to fund the movie mostly from Palestinian money, we weren't forced to take foreign crew. We were all Palestinians. We could educate them. We could give them positions that they didn't have before. Like the cameraman is his first feature film, the editor is his first feature film.
Here in the West Bank city of Ramallah, the film echoes the frustration and sense of humiliation felt by many Palestinians. While depicting life in occupied territories, the director delivers a compelling tale of betrayal, friendship, and love.
نفسي أصدق.
بوعدك راح ألاقي حل لكل شيء.
Well, to end this week's show, here's some somewhat surprising pictures of Britain's Prince Charles. He's taking part in a sword dance in Saudi Arabia. The dance is part of an annual cultural event that lasts about 2 weeks and celebrates all aspects of Saudi life. Well, that's where we're going to have to end this week's show. Take care and see you again for more Middle East Matters next time.